The road curved gently beneath my wheels, framed by trees that once seemed enormous to my childhood eyes. Now, they looked tired, almost skeletal in the fading autumn light. It had been over 15 years since I last drove this stretch, but, somehow, my hands remembered the turns. My body remembered the rhythm of this place. I passed the old playground where I scraped my knee the first time I tried to ride a bike without training wheels. The swing set was still there, but rust had claimed its chains, and the rubber seat sagged as if weighed down by forgotten memories. Next came the corner store, Mr. Henry's. The cracked red awning was still intact, and I could almost taste the grape slushies I used to buy on sweltering summer afternoons. The bell above the door used to chime when I ran inside with sticky fingers and dollar bills. Every street carried a memory. Every block whispered something familiar. And yet, none of it felt quite right. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel as I turned onto my old street, Sycamore Lane. The houses here were quiet, tucked behind hedges and cracked sidewalks. But when I saw my childhood home, I instinctively slowed to a crawl. It looked the same at first. The white siding, the blue shutters, the wraparound porch that used to creak when Dad came home late from work. But something was off. The windows were too clean, the front yard too pristine. The mailbox, once dented from years of baseballs and careless bike rides, was new, shiny. I parked across the street and just stared. The closer I looked, the more wrong it felt. Like someone had copied the house from memory, but missed the small details that gave it soul. The tree I used to climb had been trimmed back to a stump. The wind chimes my mom hung every spring were gone. The porch swing replaced with a cold metal bench. I stepped out of the car slowly, gravel crunching underfoot. The air smelled faintly of fallen leaves and something else cleaner, more sterile. I crossed the street, drawn forward by some mix of curiosity and dread. And then I saw it. The curtains moved. Someone was watching me. A silhouette barely noticeable moved past the front window. Not just watching, waiting. I told myself it was just the new owners, that people were allowed to live here now. But the chill that slid down my spine didn't care about logic. This was my home. But it wasn't. It was hauntingly familiar, yet deeply, unmistakably different. I stood there for a long moment, rooted to the cracked sidewalk in front of the house I thought I knew. The sky darkened above me, clouds rolling in like a curtain drawn across fading daylight. A strange stillness had settled over Sycamore Lane. No kids playing, no lawnmowers humming, no dogs barking in backyards, just silence. And that window, my feet moved on their own, slowly guiding me up the front walk. The closer I got, the more I felt it, a low hum of unease, like a tuning fork vibrating just beneath the surface of everything. The air felt wrong, not just unfamiliar. Wrong. Before I could knock, the front door creaked open. A woman stood there, maybe in her early 50s, wearing a long gray cardigan that looked 2 sizes too big and clutched tightly at her waist. Her hair was dark but streaked with silver, pulled back into a messy bun. Her face was pale and sharp-featured, but her eyes were something else. They were the color of rain-soaked slate and held an unreadable expression, not fear, not welcome, but recognition, as if she'd been expecting me. "You came back," she said softly. I froze. "Excuse me." She stepped back and gestured for me to enter. "You should come inside before the storm hits." The air behind me shifted. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Against every instinct, I crossed the threshold. The house was dimly lit, smelled faintly of lavender and dust. And it looked identical to how I remembered it, down to the dent in the wooden banister and the old brass key hooks by the door. But none of this made sense. "I'm sorry," I said, heart pounding. "Do I know you?" The woman closed the door and turned to face me. "You should sit." I made tea. This wasn't how these things were supposed to go. I should have knocked, introduced myself, apologized for the intrusion. But she had opened the door. She had spoken as if we'd met before. I followed her into the kitchen, and everything hit me at once. The red checkered curtains my mother sewed, the faded wallpaper with the little blue flowers, the old oak table where we had breakfast every morning. This was exactly the house I grew up in. Not remodeled, not repainted, not redecorated. Preserved. The woman placed a cup of tea in front of me and sat down across from me. Her hands trembled slightly. You lived here, she said. A long time ago. I nodded slowly. Yes, until I was 13. She gave a ghost of a smile. Your room is still upstairs. Everything is where you left it. I blinked. How do you know that? I watched you grow up. A chill spread across my spine. But we never met. She looked down at her tea. No, you never saw me. But I saw you. Lightning flashed outside, and for a split second, her reflection in the window looked wrong, younger, her hair darker, her eyes brighter. When I looked back at her, she was watching me carefully. There's something you should see, she said. She stood and walked down the hall without another word. I followed, unable to stop myself. She opened a door, the old study, and stepped aside. The walls were covered in photographs, hundreds of them. All of me. Me as a child, me riding my bike, me at school, me through the windows of this house. I turned to her, horrified. What is this? Her voice was barely a whisper. You were never supposed to leave. My breath hitched in my chest as I stared at the collage of photographs. There was no mistaking it. These weren't just childhood photos pulled from a dusty box in the attic. They were taken without my knowledge, some from inside the house, others from across the street. There was one of me reading on the porch, one of me asleep in bed, one from the second-story window of what used to be my bedroom. Why do you have these? I asked. My voice sounded hollow, as though it belonged to someone else. The woman stepped inside the room slowly, eyes darting around like she, too, was seeing it for the first time. Because you were special, she said. You still are. She reached for one of the frames, running her fingers over the glass. This house remembers you. The storm outside deepened. A sharp crack of thunder made the walls vibrate. I think I should go, I said, edging backward. You can't, she replied, with that same eerie softness. Not yet. I turned, ready to bolt, when a sound stopped me. A faint knock. Not at the front door. From upstairs. My heart plummeted. I stared up at the ceiling. Another knock, then a dragging sound. The house doesn't like when people forget, she said. I couldn't breathe. There's a door, she whispered. In the attic. It was always locked when you were little, I remembered, vaguely. A small door tucked behind the far wall of the attic. My dad once said it was just storage. I never questioned it. It's open now, she added. I backed into the hallway. The air felt colder now, heavier. I climbed the stairs, slow and trembling. The attic door was ajar, just as she said. It creaked when I touched it, revealing a narrow, dark crawl space that hadn't seen light in decades. Inside, the smell hit me: mildew, dust, and something older. In the far corner, something shifted, a shape, human-sized, wrapped in a moth-eaten quilt. Then it moved. I stood frozen at the edge of the attic, my breath caught in my throat. The shape beneath the quilt was still, but the room itself was alive with sound. Not footsteps, not movement, but whispers, low and distinct murmurs, like wind slipping through the cracks in memory. I stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under my weight, the sound swallowed by the thick silence that followed. The whispers paused. I peeled the quilt back with trembling hands. Beneath it was not a body, but something stranger, a mannequin, dressed in old clothes that used to be mine. My little league jersey, my favorite hoodie, the sneakers with the blue laces I refused to untie, pinned to its chest was a Polaroid of me. From behind, taken recently. I stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a stack of boxes labeled with names not mine but others. Dozens, maybe more. The walls of the attic had writing carved into them. Not painted, not written in marker, etched deep into the wood. I remember you. Why did you leave? I turned to run, but the attic door slammed shut. Then came the voice, not the woman downstairs. This was smaller, younger, inside the walls. Don't leave me again. I spun, heart racing. Who's there? Come back. Something scratched from inside the wall, fingernails, or something pretending to be. It followed me as I pressed against the attic door, trying to force it open. locked from the outside. Let me out, I screamed. The voice whispered again. You forgot me. A flash of memory stabbed into my mind, a game I played when I was 6, in the attic, talking to someone through the vents. My parents told me it was imaginary. A friend I invented. I had called her Wendy. She had never answered me again. After we moved, now, she had found her voice. I waited, she said. They told me you'd come back. A cold draft wrapped around me like arms. Something touched my shoulder. I didn't turn. The door creaked open behind me. The woman stood there. Expression unreadable. You weren't supposed to go up here alone, she said. I'm leaving. I snapped. She didn't stop me, but her words followed me down the stairs. You can't run from memory. It lives here now, just like she does. As I stepped outside into the pouring rain, I swore I heard laughter coming from the bricks. I didn't sleep that night. Back at the motel, I sat in the stiff chair by the window, watching headlights pass on the wet road. My clothes were still damp. My heart hadn't slowed. I kept hearing her voice, not the woman, but Wendy, the imaginary friend who had waited 2 decades in the walls. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But morning came, and with it, a pull I couldn't ignore. The kind that settles behind your ribs and grows roots. I had questions. The woman hadn't answered them. And that house had more to say. I returned just after sunrise. The street was empty. The windows closed. The house looked quiet, harmless even. I walked up the porch and knocked. No answer. I tried the door. It was unlocked inside. The air was colder, the walls darker. I called out, but no one replied. The kitchen was empty, the teacups gone, the photographs all removed from the study. The only thing left was a single envelope on the table, with my name on it. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. She chose you, because you listened, because you remembered. The house remembers you too, and now, you're part of it. We all are. I felt it before I saw it. The wallpaper in the hallway shimmered, subtly shifting as if breathing. I reached out and my fingers went through it, not like passing through air, but through memory, warm, familiar. I heard laughter, mine, as a child, running down these halls. Then I heard hers. Tag. You're it. I turned. She stood there, not the mannequin, not a ghost. A girl 6, maybe 7, pale, dark hair, wearing the overalls I'd buried in a box when I was 10. Wendy, she smiled. You came back. My head spun. You're real. She tilted her head. Real enough, but I need you to stay. I took a step back. I can't. The floor groaned behind me. The walls closed in, not physically, but emotionally, like a childhood dream becoming a trap. Every time someone leaves, they forget, Wendy said. You remembered. That's why the house let you in again. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But instead I whispered, what are you? Her smile faded. I'm the part of you that never left. The one that waited. The one that knew this house wasn't just wood and nails. It was alive with everything we were. She stepped forward, and the hallway grew brighter, filled with echoes of 100 small memories. My dad's laughter, my mom's lullabies, my own voice humming at night. Wendy reached out and touched my hand, and I remembered everything. The house didn't want to haunt me. It wanted to be whole, and now, so did I.